Welcome back, friends. It is October 25th, and you're back with Paul Thompson and Steve Autrey, pastor at Huntersville United Methodist Church.
Perch? You've been perched here for a while. How long you been here?
Pastor, too long for most people, I'm sure. But here with Steve Autrey at Denver United Methodist Church, we thought after last week's heaviness of talking about Israel, that maybe we would talk a little bit this week about something that is on some level fun and funny, and then some level a little concerning, the people's fascination with Halloween.
Yeah, so when you were small, back in the horse and cart days, what did Halloween look like?
So we would dress up in some outfit, but we didn't go to a store and buy one. Mom would take something and paint on our face. We'd put on one of their old hats or scarves or something like that and turn into a pirate or a cowboy or something like that. And it was pretty simple.
Tame.
Yeah, pretty tame.
You just head out and hit the neighbors.
We didn't have neighbors where I grew up.
See, that was the problem we had. We couldn't go door to door because if you did that, you'd end up walking about 12 miles and seeing about 4 people.
Yeah.
My mom would throw us in the car. We would take a shopping bag, like the old-fashioned paper bags, and we would just, usually it was a sheet thrown over your head or something like that.
Right.
And she'd drive us around. If someone had the porch light on, you'd stop and knock, and they would give you candy, and some of it homemade, which you would never eat these days, I suppose.
Right.
It would be everything from popcorn balls to candied apples, or just if you got that one neighbor who just had apples, you're like, really?
Yeah.
And occasionally a candy bar, that kind of stuff. But it was like a one thing, right? It didn't take over the consciousness of everybody. And one thing that I don't remember happening is having Halloween parties for grown-ups.
No, grown-ups didn't really participate in that.
And now we spend so much money on Halloween.
Billions.
And I know in the neighborhood I live in, that there are folks who have these inflatables and they put up lights and they strung this and that. And what is it about? I mean, one, I think we've been duped a little bit into celebrating a holiday that's really not a holiday. We're suckers for good marketing.
That's right. Yeah, we'll fall into that trap. So Steve, where does this idea, All Hallows Eve, Halloween, where does that come from?
So the church, and I can't remember, I don't know exactly when we established November 1st as All Saints Day, but it's been a long time. So the idea of All Saints Day is is to commemorate those who've gone on to be with the Lord. In the New Testament, when Paul writes to the saints of Ephesus, what's he talking about?
He's talking about the believers. He's talking about any believer, not a super Christian. It's just simply anyone, someone who claims the name of Christ.
That's the definition of a saint biblically.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of All Saints Day is that you remember those who have died in the Lord, and it's a way of enacted memory. It's a way of reaffirming the promises that Jesus does. The supernatural claims of the gospel are real. Jesus does promise us life ever after. We believe it when he says, I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go to prepare a place for you, I'll bring you to myself.
So All Saints Day, as we observe it at Huntersville, as a lot of churches today, we remember the dead who have died in the past year. We show their faces on the screens. We ring the bells. We have communion. It's a real celebration, a way to bring from the past forward to the present the memory of that loved one.
And you all just worked through Hebrews 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Paul says, since we're surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, the idea is that the distance between us and what is to come isn't so wide, and that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses who cheer us on, who pull for us. And that's I know it can seem a little creepy maybe, but the idea is that, again, those realms aren't that far apart, and that we're not in this alone, and that the work of God extends through eternity.
So if that's All Saints Day, what does All Hallows Eve or Halloween have to do with All Saints Sunday? Where did that tradition come from?
It comes from this idea that starts to develop in medieval times, really. The idea that, okay, if we're going to be, and you got to remember, right, so most people aren't able to read, right? We're talking Middle Ages, the rise of the cathedrals. This is how they got their religion. They go into a cathedral, biggest building they've ever seen, and we're still impressed and in awe of these cathedrals. So if you can think about how impressive a cathedral is now, imagine when there were no skyscrapers or no big government projects, no stadiums. To go into a cathedral was like stepping onto another planet. It would be like stepping into the very realm of heaven. Stained glass, the
lofted
ceilings, and then you go in there and the priest is talking in Latin, and you don't understand Latin. And he says things like, he takes a piece of bread and he says, "This is now the body of Christ." And it seems like magic, right? So those things start to percolate into the population. And so the idea of, if you've been asked to come to the cathedral to celebrate the people who've died, then that means that the night before they must come out, right? That they're there.
Yeah.
So the eve of All Saints Day, or All Holy Ones Eve, begins to get mixed with, and one thing about Christianity is it spreads, especially into the Celtic regions. Those Celts are a little crazy. It gets intermingled with a lot of pagan beliefs,
pagan religions,
and sometimes we get a little weird about
Christmas
that.
trees.
Christmas
and
trees
yeah.
are pagan. The December 25th being the birthday of Jesus is a nod to an old Roman holiday. So Christianity has always had a measure of adaptation to help propel it. And again, there's a difference between adaptation and accommodation. But this idea then is that, well, there must be something going on the night before. If we're talking about dead people tomorrow, then they must be around tonight. And that idea that the dead come out the night before All Saints Day becomes known as Halloween eventually. And then it kind of lingers. And then,
so the idea is you put on masks so that they don't know who you are.
I don't know. It's all kinds of. I haven't studied it deeply, but that's kind of the origin. And then that kind of takes off, and it doesn't really. I mean, let's face it, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's kind of one of those dormant things that really gets an American twist on it when someone figures out that you can make money off of it.
But John Wesley, the person that certainly has impacted our faith traditions, believed that All Saints Day was one of the high holy days of the year. And always insisted that
I don't think he went
church,
trick-or-treating.
He didn't go trick-or-treating, but he certainly wanted to celebrate the fact that the saints were the ones that in some way were there cheering for us. And the saints were somehow our cheering section that kept encouraging us in the journey. So John Wesley really considered that high holy day, and I think in the United Methodist Church we've continued that tradition to believe that All Saints Day is one of those days that should capture our attention. It should enable us to have good memory.
Well, and also I think we've like the celebration of Halloween is interesting. It should be. Hopefully, it's a fun thing to do. But like a lot of churches, when I was a kid, there was this movement that you should eradicate Halloween, right? But now I see most churches do things like fall festivals and Halloween to try to reach people, which I think is a better response to it. So just remember when you go out and you see all this Halloween stuff that it's actually rooted in an ancient Christian practice.
Yeah. So we hope you have a great Halloween. I hope you get lots of candy. If you get some Snickers.
What's your favorite candy?
It's Snickers.
Snickers.
I'm a sucker for a Snickers anytime.
Yeah, Reese's Cups. That would be mine.
Yeah.
So
if you have a couple extra, throw them our way.
Yeah, we don't need them.
We don't need them. Thank you for your time today. I don't know how we got off on this track, but we did. And
we just want you to know when you're driving around, it's connected.
It's connected. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.